What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, Division Rivals? This is Stephen Hyder, Gate City Sports Channel, where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. All right, guys, tonight's topic, I just wanted to take some time and touch base here for a few minutes on the running backs. With the signing, I guess we could call it a re-signing, really, but bringing back Jordan Howard, it got my mind working, guys. It got me interested in really looking at Nick Sirianni and like what happened in Indianapolis, really taking an in-depth look at their running backs and then trying to come up with some things that could be useful or helpful to kind of bring into the community to talk about tonight, guys. So the first thing I want to talk about is utilization of the running backs. So when you really look at like Jonathan, you look at Jonathan Taylor from last year, you look at Marlon Mack from 2019, and you kind of compare that with a guy like, Miles Sanders. And the first thing I can tell you right now is that these guys aren't drastically different. Like, don't get me wrong, Jonathan Taylor's built a little bit more closely to Jordan Howard than he is Miles Sanders, but it's about a 10, 15 pound difference, guys. I will say Marlon Mack in particular and Miles Sanders, a lot of similarity, guys. And just give me a second. Let me walk you through this. I'll tell you exactly what I mean by all this. There's a physical stature things that are pretty identical, guys. 1 inch separates them in height. Miles Sanders being about 5'11", Marlon Mack being about 6 foot even, but their weight is about the same. Marlon Mack goes anywhere between 210 to 215 pounds, just depending on the publication and the time that they weighed him. And then the same thing goes for Miles Sanders. I've seen Miles Sanders as light as 208 pounds. I've seen him as listed as heavy as 215 pounds. Basically, both these guys are only coming in right around 210. There's a lot of physical similarities to their stature, guys. I will say that when I looked into some of the deeper things about Marlon Mack, he had a longer reach, 32-inch arms, to Miles Sanders' 30-inch arms. Bigger wingspan, 78-inch wingspan, big, huge wingspan for a running back. Miles Sanders is about 74 and a half or three-quarters, something like that, guys, somewhere in that area. But look at the physical measurements of the drills and how close these two stack. It's what really stood out to me. Everyone's favorite drill, the 40-yard dash. Marlon Mack, 4.5 40.
He got eaten alive by two big bodies. Marlon Mack.
Not a bad dash, right? I mean, from a running back, it's about what you expect, right? You want a guy that can do that. You want to see a pretty good 10-yard split, which I'm going to get to their 10-yard split in a minute. But then I took a look and I saw Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders, 40-yard dash, 4.49.
Played in Atlanta.
Talk about the Rams and Patriots. I race my kids.
That's Super Bowl in Atlanta. Oh, okay.
They challenged me to be.
I'm not going to waste time over 1/10 of a second, guys. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, we're talking about a 1/10 of a second. They're basically identical speeds here. What I will say is when I looked at the 10-yard split between the two, interestingly enough, even though that Miles Sanders ran the better 40 time, there's a slight adjustment into Marlon Mack's favor in terms of the 10-yard split. He ran it in a 1.55, while Miles Sanders ran the 10-yard split in about a 1.57. And these are all combine measurements in this particular grouping. But what I will say is that when you got to things like the short shuttle, which you guys probably refer to as a 20-yard shuttle, but the short shuttle, Marlon Mack came in at 4.22 seconds. Miles Sanders came in at 4.19 seconds. Talking about 3/10 of a difference here. Similar athletic profiles. I will say that Marlon Mack opted not to run the 3-cone, which is a little alarming to me because when I looked at Miles Sanders' 3-cone, the 3-cone is really where Miles Sanders shows his ability to keep his body under control, and like just the elusiveness, the shiftiness of this kid's hips. Because he put up a 6.89 3-cone, guys. Anything under 7 is pretty good. 6.89 is a really good number, guys. Especially for a running back. Like, that's what you want to see from a guy, right? The biggest difference, though, as I got into this stuff, guys, it was the utilization, okay? Marlon Mack got 247 carries in 2019, okay? Jonathan Thomas got 232 carries in 2020. When I went and I looked at Miles Sanders, he had 179 attempts in 2019 and only 164 in 2020. I'm going to tell you, just Nick Sirianni coming in here, one of my first hunches, I don't know, guys. Ultimately, I'm just throwing darts at the board just like everybody else. But just given some research here and what to expect here, I do expect Miles Sanders to probably touch the ball 200 times this season. I think it'll be the first time in his career he's going to go over 200 rushing attempts on the year. I honestly believe that. I think that's going to happen. He only missed the mark by 21 carries in 2019 alone. So I think that's absolutely going to happen here. And as I broke down Miles Sanders, I will say that I found a couple of things here that were, just to bring up to the attention of everybody. He only has 2 games over 2 seasons with 20 or more attempts. So both of those games actually were exactly 20 attempts. So He's not getting the ball enough. I think we all know that. We know that you can't give this guy 20, 25 handoffs or a 6-game span in a row. You're going to get him injured. We get that. But he should be getting more than like 18 carries consistently. At least half of the games of the year, somewhere around that area. Short of half of the games, just short of it. He should be getting that kind of carriage, that kind of usage. And to be honest with you, even when I limit this down to 18 attempts or more in a game, over 2 seasons, he's only got 4 games. 4 games. That's a problem, guys. Because when I look at Jonathan Taylor just in 2020 alone, Jonathan Taylor had 4 games of 20 or more carries. And then he had 5 games of 18 or more carries. So, I mean, it's got to come up. Marlon Mack, 4 games with 20 or more carries and 7 games with 18 or more carries. We need to get more carries out of Miles Sanders. I think this has been something we've all been griping about. Listen, I'm not a fool, guys. I understand there's a balance. There's a line you have to walk with these guys. And to be fair, Marlon Mack has been injured, even though he's talented, because he's probably been overutilized. So, I mean, there's a balancing act here. I don't think we want necessarily Miles Sanders up around 250 carries. You know what I'm saying? If he's proving he can't do that, but I would like to see an uptick towards about the bottom end here, about 200 carries or so. What I will say is I expect us to be a little bit more run dominant, because there was one stat as I brought in the whole aspect of Jordan Howard that stood out to me, guys. And I'll end with this. Jordan Howard, when we looked at the highest percentage of runs against stacked boxes, 8 or more boxes, 8 or more defenders in a boxes, right? Those runs going for either a first down or a touchdown, he had a 31% ratio, guys, which is a really good ratio. And when you looked at where he ranked, guys, he ranked 4th in the league in 2019 with that 31% ratio. Just behind Todd Gurley's 32%, Kenyon Drake's 32%, and then Lamar Jackson's 39%. So really, he finished because there's a tie for second. So that's what I want to see, guys. I want to see teams have to respect their running game more. And I know the offensive line plays into that, because some teams felt like with 14 line shifts going on with the Eagles' offensive line, they just didn't need to commit that many people to the run. But I think we need to start making teams commit that kind of effort to the run. Because if we can start getting 8-man boxes again against our running backs, because Miles Sanders versus 8-man boxes, guys, like I think it was like 8% of his snaps where he played against an 8-man box. And that's not good, guys. Like, we need more 8-man boxes. That's how our receivers, that young receiving group, can start immediately looking better. And that's what I'll kind of end with, guys. All right, y'all. Let me know your thoughts down below. Don't forget, if you want to support the channel, you can buy me a cup of coffee. Link is in the description below. Don't forget to like and comment, guys. That's what spikes the algorithm and gets this into other people's recommended feeds. And last but not least, if you are not a member of the community, guys, honestly, I would love to add you. In order for me to do that, I'm going to need you to hit that subscribe button, guys. All right. What I'll pose the question to you guys tonight is this. What do you guys feel about Jordan Howard? Are you concerned about the medical grade stuff with the shoulder? Because if you remember, he had nerve damage in that shoulder. And I think that played a role, because even if you heal the shoulder completely, how far does that set you back in your scheduled workouts? Was Jordan Howard even in football shape for 2020? So might that be a positive, that with this thing fully healed and him having time, he can get his body physically into football shape? And, you know, like, my thing is Jordan Howard can be 85% of the guy he was in 2019 before the injury. That's a good football player for the Eagles.
Every snap in the loss to Atlanta. Howard runs right.
Let me know your thoughts, guys. What do you think about Miles Sanders and Jordan Howard? I will end with this, is that looking at guys like Jason Huntley and Adrian Killins and Elijah Holyfield, Boston Scott, and Jordan Howard, I like those guys. I'm not trying to knock any of them, but I don't think any one of those guys would prevent me from taking a Ramondre Stevens in the draft, a Michael Carter in the draft. I know he's a scat back, guys, but I just know the way that they like to operate here. Trey Sermon. Some of these guys that could be past the second round, I know Michael Carter's probably going to go in the second round, to be quite honest, but any of these guys that could really be third round or later, I don't know that what we have on the roster would preclude me from doing that, to be quite honest. All right, guys, I'm out here. I will see you guys on the next video.